Good morning. I'm Steve Fetter, Dean of the Graduate School, and I'd like to welcome all doctoral students to this virtual town hall. We're hosting this event with several partners: Graduate Student Government, Graduate Student Life, and International Student and Scholar Services. They'll introduce themselves in a moment. We know this is a very difficult time for you, both academically and personally. Academically, you're dealing with the transition to online courses and exams, in some cases, both taking courses online and teaching them, and doing this under the stress of a pandemic, disruption of your research and the scholarship, uncertainties about financial support and graduation, and employment after graduation. And of course, many of you have personal challenges relating to family and childcare, and perhaps the loss of outside employment. We'd like to help you deal with these challenges. We're doing our best to move our services online to support you. If you call our front desk during normal business hours, a person will answer and try to help you. The Writing Center and the Office of Career and Professional Development are holding online workshops and one-on-one consultations. We have moved all dissertation defenses online. We've moved all courses to SF grading to try to reduce stress while giving you the option to receive a letter grade. And we're posting answers to frequently asked questions online, but we know that many of you may be feeling alone and isolated, so we thought it would be good to gather together as a community by video conference and try to answer the questions we know you still have. Because this is such a large group, we have muted all the microphones. We invited you to submit questions in advance of the meeting, and in a few moments, we'll begin to answer those questions and invite you to ask additional questions. But now I would like to ask Simone Warwick-Bell, the Graduate Academic Counselor, to say a few words.
Hello, my name is Simone, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am the new Graduate Academic Counselor for the Graduate School. I started in February, on February 3rd, and within 6 weeks from there, we had a pandemic. And now I am teleworking and offering support for students in terms of mental health, any leave of absence questions you have, as well as any resources that I can possibly help you with. One of the things that I did want to stress in terms of resources for mental health, the Counseling Center on campus is still offering virtual therapy services. If you need to set up an appointment, you can contact them at their main number. We put up a polling question right now because we are in the process of developing some programming. I want to see what type of programming that you all really need at this time. The goal is not to give you programming that you don't find helpful or valuable at this time. So I know self-care has been a big push, but if it's not something that you need, then I really want to offer something that's really helpful based on the polling responses that you all submit. Other resources that are on campus, the Health Center is offering free meditation sessions weekly. We are definitely continuing to encourage students to use the WellTrack app. There are additional apps that are on the Graduate School Mental Health Resources website. And if you have any questions about connecting with me or any questions right now, you can direct those to Amanda. And one last thing, the Student Crisis Fund, they are still accepting applications. The approval and disbursements of funds, it is not as fast as it used to be, simply because everything is overwhelmed right now. So if you do apply, they are somewhat backlogged, so it may take a week or longer to receive your funds. If you have any questions, please direct them to Amanda. Thank you.
Thank you, Simone, and good morning, everybody. My name is Scott Roberts. I'm Assistant Dean here with the Graduate School, and I just want to thank everyone who's joined us as co-hosts for the meeting, and I'd like to introduce Sue and Jody from ISSS.
Hi, I'm Susan Ellis Doherty. I'm the director of ISSS, and I'm here today with our Associate Director, Jody Heckman-Bose. Jody, if you'd like to take a minute.
Hi, I'm Jody Heckman-Bose, and I'll be answering questions that pertain to international students at our session.
Today, I'd just like to share with you what ISSS has done during our remote operations at the university. We are offering all the services that we have been offering to campus in a virtual environment. We have our chat services that are operating on their regular hours. We are taking appointments with advisors, and you can schedule a specific advisor and have a virtual appointment at this time. We're also doing our virtual walk-ins, so please go ahead and log into walk-ins and we'll get your questions answered. We have on our homepage at isss.umd.edu a frequently asked questions section, and there are frequently asked questions for both currently enrolled students as well as students who may be in the admissions process at this time. And also on the homepage, we have a listing of the upcoming events that we are offering. Our next event is an alumni panel for internships, and that will be April 17th. We're having tomorrow our first virtual coffee hour, which we hope you'll be able to join us, and we'll be having some breakout rooms and sharing and talking with each other about where you are currently with the COVID-19 situation in Maryland. And finally, our English Conversation Partners Program, which used to be meeting in person, is now meeting in virtual meeting rooms. So please let us know if you're interested in either joining as a conversation mentor or a conversation participant. We welcome you to the English Conversation Partners Program. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Sue. I'd also like to introduce Jennifer Enriquez from Graduate Student Life. Oh, Jennifer, you're muted.
Sorry. Hi, everyone. I'm the coordinator for Graduate Student Life. The pronouns I use are she, her, and hers. Normally, you'd find me in the STAMP Student Union along with Aggie and Corinne, who work with me as GAs. Grad Student Life exists to help you connect with other students outside of the classroom. We host many different social events throughout the year, including game nights, craft nights, and coordinated trips to see shows and visit places in and outside of the DMV area. We work with other units on campus to advocate and collaborate on initiatives to support the grad student community. And this includes supporting GSG and other student organizations. And we also manage the grad student lounge located in the STAMP Student Union. So even with all that's going on, we still want to provide a space where you all can connect with each other. So STAMP as a whole is working together to put on events for the community. And these include a TERP Talent Showcase, which will start every Tuesday. This is if you have any kind of talent and want to share that with the Maryland community, reach out to me so I can help coordinate that so we can celebrate your skills. Oh, we're also hosting trivia nights and other game nights and creative art challenges and sessions. So you'll see that we have a poll up. We want to meet you where you are, and we're hosting these virtual lounges so you can connect with other students. But we also want to make sure that we are providing programs that are enjoyable and things you want to see. I also want to mention that the chapel is still hosting virtual mass and other events related to spirituality. If you're a gamer, you can connect with the TERP Zone. They'll be hosting a Super Smash Brothers tournament next Saturday. Again, we hope to see you in the virtual lounge. There you can chat with us, we can eat together, study together, and do a lot of fun activities. So I hope to see you in the lounge.
Thanks so much, Jennifer. And also joining us representing Graduate Student Government, Annie Rappaport. Annie?
Hi. Annie here. It's great to see so many familiar names on here. It's great to see you all and some folks that I've never met before. For those of you who are unaware of what Graduate Student Government is, we're here to be an advocacy body for you. We're here to help represent your voice, so please do be in touch with us. Our website is gsgumd.org. I hope that you will go there to find some of your representatives. Some of you are representatives, but hopefully you'll find each other. Please know I submitted links that I think will be made available to you both for our frequently asked question page, which is very interactive, and also for our community development page. So you can say what it is that you're looking for in community development, and we're trying to cater to those needs throughout the rest of the semester. Just know that we're super available, and if you need us, please come find us.
Thank you, Annie. We invited you to submit questions when you registered for the event ahead of time, and so we're going to answer those, and then we'll turn to questions that you are submitting live to the host. Please submit those directly to Amanda, the host of the meeting, as she's helping to organize all of that so that we can do our best to answer all of your questions. So in no particular order, well, the first question was related to student fees. It was based off the email sent out by the Vice President for Student Affairs, how the fees are being refunded via credits, and what does that mean? So just to clarify that, the word credits was a little confusing. If you have an outstanding balance in your account, then those credits would reduce your balance. If you have a zero balance, then those credits would ultimately be issued as a check to you or sent via direct deposit, depending on how your account is set up. So that is, that would come to you as money. There was another question about how do we go about opting into getting a letter grade for graduate school courses. DIT is in the process of creating a web tool that will allow you to go in and make selections on a course-by-course basis. So stay tuned for that, and keep your eyes out for an email from the university letting you know that that tool is ready for you. We're expecting it to be sometime in the middle of this month. Next question was, how will you account for graduate students who depend on part-time work to make up for a lack of summer funding, considering many of us can no longer rely on those part-time positions to support our summer living expenses? So there's a number of questions about financial support and resources. And so for that, I'm going to turn it over to Dean Fetter.
Okay. Well, the university can't make up all lost external funding, but you should be aware that resources will be available. Simone mentioned the Student Crisis Fund, and the university is continuing to raise money for that crisis fund. The federal government, as part of the CARES Act, is providing money to the university, half of which the university will use for emergency grants to students to cover costs such as food and housing. The CARES Act also has expanded unemployment eligibility. We are investigating, we're waiting for guidance from the state, who's waiting for guidance from the federal government about about whether that might cover students as well. And then finally, US citizens and permanent residents who are not claimed as dependents and who filed a tax return in 2018 or 2019 will be receiving a recovery check. I believe the amounts are $1,200 for adults and $500 for children, and that those are expected to go out sometime in April. So other financial resources will be available to help cover unexpected costs due to the crisis and lost outside income due to the crisis.
Thank you. The next question relates to the pausing tenure clocks and delays in productivity and graduation, and whether grad students will see an extension in their programs that mirror faculty tenure clock extensions. And so related, for anything related to time to degree, Dean Fetter.
So the only university time limits are 5 years for a master's student to complete the degree, and for doctoral students, 5 years to advance to candidacy, and 9 years to complete the degree. I'm delighted that most of our students are not affected by those deadlines. The average time to candidacy is 3 years. The average time to graduation is 5.5 years. We also have a well-established process to request an extension. to those 5 and 9-year time limits. There is a form available online. We routinely grant extensions, and certainly a delay in your research that was caused by the coronavirus crisis would be a valid reason to extend the deadline. But currently, we don't feel that that it's necessary to automatically extend the deadlines for all students.
Great, thank you. And for information on requesting an extension, we will post the link in the chat box for you. A related question came from a PhD candidate in a department that relies on dissertation research being conducted off-site. And that location is now closed due to the pandemic for an unknown amount of time. And so the concern is how those kinds of external closures may hinder progress towards degree. And ultimately the question is, will guaranteed funding packages be extended given the circumstances?
So almost all PhD funding comes from 2 sources, from departments, in the case of teaching and administrative assistantships, and from research grants and contracts for research assistantship. So and those account for over 90% of graduate student funding. So please contact your department or your faculty principal investigator to see whether your funding might be extended in response to the crisis. They would, of course, have to have funding available under their grant or their department. In select cases, we will consider providing a tuition fellowship for candidates. If your research was delayed directly by the crisis because your lab was closed or your research site, the library or archive was closed, we'll be developing a process for that, and that will apply in cases where your department or the faculty investigator are unable to provide an extension of your package. But that would be limited to the candidacy tuition. So we don't have a process for that established, but we will before the end of the semester.
Great, thank you, Dean Fetter. There was a question that came in about completing full-time pre-doctoral internship, and during the internship they won't have a graduate assistantship. Therefore, I will accrue significant costs, especially if my dissertation is not complete. I plan to defend my dissertation by the end of this semester, but it needs to be pushed to summer. However, I will not be graduating at the end of the summer since I need to complete the internship. Will the fee waiver for 1 credit, $8.99 during the summer, still apply for me? And
so, if you applied to graduate in the spring, then the answer is yes. If you applied to defend your dissertation and submit your dissertation in the spring, but you're unable to do so, then a free section of $8.99 will be available to you in the summer so that you can defend and submit in the summer.
And we know that there are students with special circumstances, and OES the Office of Extended Study is doing their best to be as flexible as they can to support students. And so we encourage your program to reach out to them if you have questions about how that might apply to you. So there was a question about regalia. What is happening with doctoral student regalia that has already been purchased? Will we get our regalia in a timely manner, and will it be sent somewhere, or would that order be refunded or canceled? And unfortunately, we don't have the answer to that question because that is all managed through the university bookstore. So for those that have placed an order with a bookstore, we encourage you to contact them for information about canceling and refunds or shipping. So there was another question about automatic extensions to time to degree and defense dates for graduate students. And I think we've already actually addressed that. There isn't an across the board extension, but people can request an extension as needed. Will teaching and administrative work be counted and evaluated for grad students who need these as a condition of employment funding, certificate, and/or research?
I'm not sure I understand the question, but if you are a teaching assistant, you have transitioned to online teaching, and that teaching experience would count just like a regular in-person teaching experience, of course, taking into account the fact that it was delivered online. The same thing for administrative work. So if you're relying on your supervisor, your faculty advisor to provide a letter of recommendation for you, they should be able to do so as they would before, based on your remote work.
Great, thank you. And as a reminder, as when we're just about to transition to the questions you're submitting live, please send those directly to the host, Amanda, who's helping to organize all of those. It might be worth noting, there have been also questions about course evaluations. And my understanding is that those will be available to instructors, but they will not be used for performance evaluations. Is that correct, Dean Fetter?
That is correct.
Great, thank you. So the last question submitted ahead of time relates to the hiring freeze. With the recent announcement of hiring freezes, what is the graduate school doing to support GAs or students who would rely on a GA-ship to cover all fees and tuition? And also now the new rule requiring insurance.
So the hiring freeze does not apply to graduate assistantships. If you are offered a graduate assistantship for the fall, for next year, that should still be available. Please, though, check with your department or with the faculty member who offered you the graduate assistantship to ensure that the funding for the GA is still available.
A question that was submitted, will doctoral candidates who have already defended have an extended amount of time to submit their dissertation this semester past the April 21st deadline?
Not for spring graduation, but if you submit the dissertation and all the supporting documents by May 29th, you will graduate in the summer, and the degree will be conferred, and you will not need to register for any courses in the summer or pay any tuition or fees. So I regret we can't extend the April 21st deadline, but we are able to allow everyone to complete who plan to complete. If you can't meet the May 29th deadline, but you applied for spring graduation, as I think was previously mentioned, we're offering free sections of $8.99 during the summer so that you can defend the dissertation and submit it during the summer.
I'd like to just add that our F1 and J1 need to keep in mind the end date of their immigration document. Your immigration document should remain valid throughout the time you are working on the dissertation and until you turn it in. So if you do need the additional time to turn in your defense, upload your defense, you'll want to work with ISSS to make sure your I-20 or DS 2019 has that mini extension to include those additional days. Or if you need the full summer to complete, you'll be working with us for an extension of your document.
Great, thank you, Jody. And just to help clarify, the deadlines for things like submitting the documents are all established by the registrar. And so if you do have questions about those deadlines, you can always email them at registrar-graduate@umd.edu as well. Before we transition on to more questions that are coming in, I just wanted to pause and invite Simone to say a little bit more about financial support, because we do see a lot of questions and know that that is a major thing on your minds. Simone?
So the Student Crisis Fund is the first fundage that we're encouraging students to apply for. This is a fund that is available for students here at Maryland. Amanda can post the link that gives you the information page as well. In terms of applying for the fund, When you do apply for the fund, there's certain information that you will have to fill out. I just pulled it up on my computer. And essentially the fund, it's not a loan, it's money that you receive. You don't have to pay it back. The main challenge right now with the Student Crisis Fund is this is not money that's going to be given out that day. So if you apply for it on a Monday, you are not going to walk away Monday with cash in hand. There is a delay in processing the applications just due to the overwhelming amount of demand right now. There is no penalty, or this does not impact your financial aid. Essentially, this is meant to be a hardship. There is a cap on the amount that is given to students. That amount may have some variance right now just because of the circumstance. If you have any other questions about the fund, please direct them to Amanda and we will try our best to answer them. Thank you.
And if I could add, the university will soon, we hope, have access to significantly expanded emergency aid that will be given to the university by the federal government under the CARES Act for emergency grants to students. We know this will be coming, but we don't know exactly how much it will be or the rules for distributing it. So we are awaiting guidance from the Department of Education for that, but we expect to know more in the next week or two. And as soon as we have more information, we will distribute that on our frequently asked questions page.
Great, thank you. There were some questions that came in about the status of summer and of fall 2020, and if any decisions have been made. Dean Fitter, do you have an update there?
So no decision's been made about summer. It is likely that classes in summer session 1 will be held remotely, but we're still holding out hope that on-campus classes will be held, and we especially hope that on-campus courses can be held in summer session 2. And this is because there's high demand for laboratory and studio courses that really can only be offered on campus. So a decision will be made on or before May 1st, so stay tuned for that. As regards the fall, we are planning to go back to a normal on-campus schedule in the fall. That will, of course, depend on the progress of the pandemic. If we are, for some reason, unable to resume on-campus courses, courses will be held remotely until we can reopen the campus.
Thank you. A question came in about time extensions, and one student wrote that their department said they will not grant time to degree extensions, even though they are extending tenure clocks. How is the graduate school advocating for graduate students on this front, especially considering graduate students are facing the same research delays as faculty?
Well, first, I want to say there is a difference between the tenure clock and the time limits for students. So faculty have 6 years to prepare a portfolio for tenure, and extensions are almost never given for that, except for very specified circumstances like childbirth. And faculty use the whole 6 years. For graduate students, most graduate students complete well before the time limits that are established, which are the 9 years for the degree, the 5 years to advance to candidacy. We want you to finish as soon as you can because there's an opportunity cost to remaining in school. Much better for you to receive your degree and go out in the world and do great things, and we want to help that along. If you need an extension, if your research was significantly delayed by this crisis, for example, because your laboratory was closed or the libraries or archives were closed, you should be granted an extension if you need it. And if your department is not supporting an extension, please contact the graduate school. Specifically, start by contacting, if you've of course, start with your advisor, start with your director of graduate studies. If you're not getting satisfactory answers, then talk to the graduate school ombuds and we can intervene on your behalf.
That's great, thank you. And if at some point, if Amanda or someone else can post a link to how students contact the ombudsman to help address these kinds of issues, that'd be very helpful. Moving on in the list to other questions that have been posted. One person asked if it is possible to have my tuition and fees waived if I have to postpone graduation to fall 2020 because of the current situation in the stay-at-home order.
We will be developing guidelines for this, but we have very limited funds available. As I mentioned, almost all support for students comes from your home department or a faculty member's grant or contract. So you should first look to those sources for extensions of funding. If those are not possible and your delay in graduation is directly related to the pandemic, then we will create a process for considering those requests. But we're not going to be able to accommodate a large number of students in this way, and so we'll have to develop a process for identifying the students whose delays in completion are directly related to the pandemic, and then providing, and it would be limited to students who have advanced to candidacy, to extend the candidacy tuition for them.
Thank you. Related to assistantships, one student asked that if we are online in the summer and traditional lab classes are not possible, does it mean that it may be more difficult for some students to find summer TA positions?
And that is possible, but it's hard to say what we will do. We're hoping not to be in that position because, as I say, there's great demand for these lab courses. So we are very much hoping that we will be able to deliver those as planned.
Great, thank you. I think a related question was whether any disruption, if there is any disruption expected on assistantships if the situation continues. And so again, we are hoping that that those assistantships are not affected by the hiring freeze, and that they would continue to be available. Looking for other. Oh, here we go. This question is for ISSS. Asking if international students are eligible for the stimulus bill.
Well, according to our CPA working with TERP tax, non-resident aliens are not eligible for the stimulus check, even if they filed tax return previously. That's our understanding. But the CARES Act has many different pieces to it, not only that stimulus check. And many of the unemployment insurance benefits that are associated with that act vary from state to state. So depending on where you are living, you will need to check the individual state benefits, whether or not you would qualify for any unemployment insurance should you have lost a job. And this would be mainly for our students who are currently on optional practical training. They've already completed their program and they're out working. So this is more of an issue for those that have lost positions on their optional practical training. We do have a link on our website, Frequently Asked Questions, that links to an article about CARES Act and how it can be used for, some parts of it could be used for non-immigrants. So you should check that out on our FAQ on our webpage.
Great, thank you. There was a question related to graduation. What if you are enrolled in dissertation credits and your research study involves working in public schools that are now shuttered? Is it possible to take a leave of absence for a year until schools are back and ready to handle research and evaluation requests?
So we don't grant leave of absences for this reason, for when students are ready and able to complete their research or to continue their research. I think this would fall into the category I mentioned previously of students who are unable to continue their research because of virus-related restrictions, because laboratories are closed, archives are closed, public schools are closed. And so we'll develop a process to consider candidacy tuition fellowships for those students.
Great. All right, another question we received. There is negative stigma surrounding pass-fail grading in a lot of places. It looks like the student was performing poorly and elected to take pass-fail grades to save their grade. Is it possible to get a disclaimer on our transcripts to explain the pass-fail grades for the semester?
Yes, there will be a mark on the transcript indicating that the reason for the pass-fail for an undergraduate course or the satisfactory fail for a graduate course was due to the coronavirus crisis. But you can, if you wish, opt to receive a letter grade. If you're worried about stigma, I think the stigma issue is more of an issue for undergraduate students who will be applying for graduate school, less of an issue for graduate students. Even so, most of our peers, nearly all of the Big Ten, and in fact, almost all of the AAU schools have moved to a pass-fail or satisfactory fail grading system. So if you would like to stay with SF, I don't think you'll be stigmatized in any way, because this will be a widespread practice during this time.
And I will just note that when the DIT portal is ready and you go in, if you wish to change from the default of SF to a letter grade, you can do that on a course-by-course basis. So you certainly might consider the implications of choosing a letter grade in one course and not another. But regardless, as Dean Fetter noted, that the context will be there and I think widely understood. There's another question on, is the library implementing any solution for the next month's many books we need are not online? Unfortunately, the library is not open to access physical books, but the librarians are doing an amazing job continuing to support research needs. If you go to their website, and I can paste the link for you in the chat box, they have a page related to coronavirus updates for specifics and how you can reach out to them to get assistance in getting a digital copy of something that is currently only in print. Okay, let's see, let me scroll up here. One person asked, in the case that fall semester ends up being online, will courses remain SF and will course evaluations remain only for instructors and not for performance evaluation?
We haven't thought of that yet. That's a determination that would be made much later.
Okay. There was another question related, going back to the issues around extensions in time and support, and a student posted to clarify that the issue is not the grad school time limits. If we run out of department funding, we cannot afford to run to those timelines. It's only fair to provide guaranteed additional funding for students in order to complete degrees. What conversations are happening to allow us to have additional funding to be available to achieve this? Will the department help guarantee those lines of funding?
Our highest priority is to maintain the graduate student funding that has already been promised. So if you have been promised 3 years of funding or 4 years or 5 years of funding, our highest priority is to ensure that you receive the funding that you have been promised. I regret that it just won't be possible to automatically extend the funding of every student. We are likely to be under budget pressures due to decreases in revenue and in state funding. I did mention other possible sources of funding under the CARES Act that would be made available to students. And it may be that particular departments or research grants and contracts can reorganize their budgets to make more funding available, but that would be up to each program, each faculty member who's funding a graduate assistant to make those determinations. It's not something that could be imposed university-wide.
And a related question just asked for clarification on whether graduate students would qualify for unemployment over the summer if they are not receiving stimulus checks.
So we are waiting for guidance from the state, and the state is waiting guidance from the federal government on whether the expanded eligibility for unemployment benefits will extend to students and to graduate assistants. Unemployment benefits normally would not be extended to graduate assistants, but under the CARES Act, the eligibility is greatly expanded to people who did informal work, for example, drove for Uber. And so it is possible it may be available, but we don't know yet. As soon as we have guidance, we will let you know.
Thank you. There was another question related to the tuition waiver being developed for candidates whose home department cannot offer extended funding. Will this need to be registered for fall 2020, or will it be available on a rolling date?
But we're just at the early stages of developing that. I would expect it would be available just for fall 2020.
Okay. And let's see, there's another question related to the fees. Student asked, 51% of student fees university-wide are being credited back to the students. Will there be support from the graduate school regarding partial crediting reimbursement of school-specific fees? Will the graduate school be contacting academic departments to discuss this?
You will have to talk to your school or college about that. We have no information on school-specific fees.
Okay. So it looks like there was a question for ISSS for new international students who are supposed to join in the fall of 2020. What is the plan for us given such circumstances? Will the graduate school force us to defer?
Right, so as international students, new international students know, all of the U.S. consulate and embassies are closed as of this time. There's no indication when those will be opened, and we do expect a big backlog of appointments for visa interviews. So even if the university were up and running face-to-face courses in the fall, it is highly likely that it would be difficult for international students to be able to get visas and enter to engage in those face-to-face courses. So we are aware of that. Dean Fetter has encouraged various departments or all departments to look at their program to see if any sort of online introductory program, the program might be able to be moved online for international students who cannot enter the country. So various departments are in conversations right now looking at their program to see if some sort of situation might be able to be created for their department for international students who were unable to enter to begin the program. So you should have discussions with your department on whether or not those plans are underway, or some departments, the way they deliver their program, it is not possible to be done online as a new student. So those students would be encouraged to defer their admission perhaps to a spring admission or fall, again, depending on the various program and how the curriculum is delivered and laid out. So my first line of advice would be to check with your department to see if things are being discussed to be able to be provided online. And ISSS, sometime in late summer, probably in July, will be developing an e-form for international students to indicate if they have decided to defer their admission to the spring or fall, or if they're working with their individual department to begin their program, but from home. And this will be given to all international students as a way for ISS to capture what your plans are, so that we, our office, ISSS, will be able to work with your immigration document that may need to be adjusted depending on your deferral or when you will start your face-to-face program. So we are aware that things will be being decided mid to late end of the summer, and we have systems in place to be able to capture that information. I see that Amanda has placed our poll on the site. So if you are a non-immigrant, if you could answer that, so we have an idea of what students we have joined us in this town hall.
Back to you, Scott.
I'm not sure if everyone is able to hear me right now. My connection seems to be cutting out. I realize that we're at time and we may not have been able to address all of your questions, but please email us at gradschool@umd.edu if you do have questions we haven't gotten to yet, and we will get you an answer. We want to just thank you all for joining us. And we are here to support you however we can, so please reach out to us. Even though our building is locked, we're here for you. Thank you all to our co-hosts, and we wish you all the best. Stay safe. Thank you.